Hello everybody, hello cross stitchers, hello Flosstube, hello fellow creatives, hello artists, hello stitchers, hello Flosstube. My name is Margaret, this is my channel, Maggie Lou Stitches. Maggie Lou because my name is actually Margaret Louise and that's what my dad used to call me when I was a little girl. It's also, actually, it's also a name that I kind of gave my creative self years ago, about 10-15 years ago. I did a course with an art therapist, a 6-week course, and it was called Meet Your Inner Artist. It was very good, and in that I did meet my inner artist through a guided meditation, and she told me her name was Maggie Lou. I was like, oh, okay, which kind of resonates as, art is so childlike. And I was called that when I was a child. Anyway, it's always stuck with me. And so since then, anything creative, I tend to attach the tag Maggie Lou to. Although I go by Margaret. But honestly, once you put out Maggie Lou, used to have been called Maggie as well, and that's fine. I get all sorts of derivatives of Margaret. Yes, I live in Perth, Australia, with my husband and two now adult kids. Actually, I have a 21-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son, and we all still live at home together, and that's just wonderful. I work as a biographer, and in fact, there's so much to say about that, because part of why I wanted to start a YouTube channel is actually I love finding connections in things. I love how things connect together in this life, how it's a cliche, but how much of a woven tapestry this life is. And I have quite a few main interest areas in life. One, obviously, and that's why I'm here, is cross stitch. The other is my work as a biographer. I love it. The other is my Zentangle art. I love Zentangle, and for those of you, you may not know what that is, a quick Google search will show you, but I will be talking about that more throughout these videos. The other is knitting, and it's almost a surprise that I've started a Flosstube channel, not a knitting channel. And I've been thinking about that as to why, but I think the Flosstube community is really to blame for that. Watching Flosstube as I have been, I dipped in and out of it for a while, but this year, 2024, it's currently, where are we, September 2024, this last 6 months, there was no dipping in and out. I've been watching Flosstube and like many have said before me, what an enabler and an inspirer Flosstube is, and the Flosstubers, and it makes me want to join in and contribute and just be like, yeah, I want to do that too. I have stuff to say. Whereas I feel like with knitting, a lot of my knitting communication through the years has been satisfied a lot on Ravelry and just on my own personal Instagram posting. And for years I did belong to a knit group with a few friends. That was very satisfying. I don't know, I feel like I've talked about that or satisfied that a fair bit. I probably will still talk about it here a little bit, but over the last 3 years, cross stitch has come back into my life. I have been cross stitching for about 30 years, and it is very strange to be old enough to say that. Yeah, it's a long time, but it's come back, and it's come back in a big way, and as all things have come together, so has, now Flosstube's here, and so I want to talk about it with you guys. I want to talk about all the connections. I guess another main connection is just art. God, I love art in so many forms, and obviously cross stitch allows us to really delve into art because of pictures we are choosing to recreate, if it's full coverage particularly, oh, because it is art. There are so many aspects to that, and I want to talk about more of all of this stuff. So I think, as I said, I live in Perth, Australia. I couldn't decide where to start with this because there's so much that I want to talk about. The obvious place for a lot of Flosstubers would be a whip parade. And I can't really do that because I do tend to be a monogamous stitcher, which is kind of not easy when you're considering a Flosstube channel. It would be easier if I could say, let's go through my whips now, but I can't because there's only one. But you know, I was thinking a lot about this as well. We do tend to want to categorize ourselves in things and say, are you a multi-project stitcher? Are you a monogamous stitcher? Even with the methods, you know, with say full coverage, you know, do you park? Do you do royal rows? Do you start in the top left and go across? Do you go across right? You know, there's all these ways. What do you do? And I've been thinking about that a lot too. How do I categorize myself in all of these things? And you know, you quickly realize there's a full spectrum on all of them, and I'm somewhere in the middle of everything. So I call myself a monogamous cross stitcher because I usually only have one pattern going at a time. However, it's not a hard and fast policy of mine. It's just what has tended to happen. And in fact, I may be a monogamous cross stitcher, but I'm very much a multi-crafter, as I know a lot of us are. But what tends to happen with mine, so I've got a knitting project on the go, a cross stitch project on the go, a Zentangle art piece that I'm working on. Is that all? Let's just go with that. So there's those three things that I usually have. So, the other thing I was thinking of was my piano. I started learning piano 3 years ago. That's what I was thinking of. So there's piano, another creative pursuit to sit and spend time with. So the theory is that, you know, I've got all of those and I can go towards which one I have the energy for in that moment. You know, what do I feel like now? And I rotate between them. That's the theory. The reality is I sit and cross stitch and go, oh, I should play some more piano. Just do another colour. So I tend to get a little bit obsessive about cross stitch, and yeah, I have been like that with knitting in the past. I'm not at the moment. Knitting for me at the moment is a bit more TV knitting. So okay, that's another thing that is central to my life is K-pop and K-dramas, but they're actually things I can't really talk about on here because it will derail the whole Flosstube thing. And actually there's another Flosstuber. His name is Yoshi Telles, I believe, and he only started Flosstubing this year. Go and have a look. He's a full coverage cross stitcher, and I love the way he does his cross stitches because, and I hadn't thought about this really with cross stitches, but once he picks the picture he's going to stitch, he kits it up and he gets it started, he puts the picture away and he doesn't look at that again. It's the graph, the graph, is that what it's called? Chart, thank you, chart. It's the chart and his stitching, so that he watches the picture unfold, you know. And actually my husband does that with jigsaw puzzles. He likes to do jigsaw puzzles, and he, you know, obviously chooses pictures that he likes and ones that he wants to do, usually around 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles. And then he puts all the pieces out and he puts the box away. He doesn't look at the picture to construct the jigsaw puzzle, which was mind-blowing to me. I didn't know there was a different way to do that. I thought you started with the edge pieces and you looked at the picture and you put in. No, apparently there are other ways where you don't do that. Anyway, but Yoshi in his video, very much like Medges, then happened to slip in at the beginning that he is a Taylor Swift fan. He is a Swiftie, and you could just see this moment where he froze and just went. And I can't talk about that anymore because it's too good. And I get it. I am a Swiftie too, so I really get it. But what that brought me back to was my TV knitting. Because I'm watching K-dramas with subtitles, because no, I don't speak Korean, I have to have knitting that is just TV knitting, is just, you know, easy. Stocking stitch and garter stitch and things like that. So that's my knitting project. So I tend to obsess over cross stitch. That's what I'm getting to here. I have been obsessing over cross stitch lately, the last few years. So it's only right that I'm here to talk about it. Now, okay, this is what I was saying, was I wasn't quite sure where I was going to start with this, because the other thing is, as a biographer, okay, I have been a biographer also for 30 years, about? No, 24. Started in 2000, my business. My business is called 9 Lives Biography Services. And for the last 24 years, I have been professionally writing biographies on private commission for families, also for institutions, for businesses. Different people will say to me, you know, things like, my grandpa's 95, we'd love to get his life story. I'm your woman. So I've been writing all these stories. I think I've written over 50 biographies, and it cannot help but influence, again, with these connections and these threads of tapestry. It influences how I look at everything and how I approach everything. So I do tend to look at things in life in chapters. I'm clearly in my cross-stitch chapter right now. And I tend to look at things in a chronological sort of linear fashion. So when I thought about doing this YouTube, I thought, I'm going to start at the beginning. I want to tell my cross-stitch story. Everyone's got a cross-stitch biography as well. When did you start? What were your first projects? How have you developed? If you have, you don't have to develop. What do you like to do? Before I decided to do this Flosstube, I was talking to a friend about my desire to do it. And part of that was because I have had this absolute fascination lately as to why I'm so obsessed with cross-stitch. What is it that makes me, want to sit down and recreate art in tiny little X's? Thousands of them. The answer doesn't even matter. You do what you're drawn to, but I can't help but explore it more and think, like, you know, what is it? Now, my friend said to me, oh, wouldn't it just be in your DNA? And as a woman, haven't we been doing needlework through the centuries? And I just thought that was really interesting, because I had never really thought about my influences, my DNA, my genealogical influence. Who before me was doing this? Now, I obviously know off the top of my head about my mum and my sisters, because having said that, I'm the youngest of 7 children. There are 2 sets of twins. I'm a twin with my twin brother. The oldest 2 are boy-girl twins, and there's 3 non-twins in the middle. So being the youngest, I've got 3 older sisters, and obviously a mother who has been very creative all her life. But I start to really think, well, it's not... Well, that's one thing, but why? I'm not going to complicate that more. I just decided to look back. I have had some great conversations in the last few months with my mum. Mum is currently 90 years old and living in Queensland, so we chat on the phone. I see her every year or 2 lately. Dad is 92. They're still well and living in Queensland. I'm in Perth, so we're far away. So I've been having some really good conversations with Mum about this and asking her, Mum, when did you learn to do all this stuff? Who taught you? I've had some great conversations with my sisters about their creativity, about what I would have been seeing when I was growing up and how that influenced me. Obviously, I've been exploring my own memories on that, not just relying on what other people tell me. That's a given. But particularly going back in history, what about your mum, your grandmother? What do you know about all this stuff? And it has been just so interesting, and I cannot wait to share a lot of that stuff that I've found out here. A lot of my biography and the biography of creativity in this Australian family in the early 21st century. As a biographer, my interest is in chronology where you start at the beginning. When I talk to people about their life story, I always start there. Where were you born? When were you born? What was the place you were born into like? What was your family situation? Like that start, where did it start for you? Then we go backwards and look at the history, then we go forwards and go through the timeline of life. Now this is sounding like a biography instructional. It's not, it's just that it makes me want to start at the beginning with my biography, with my cross-stitching, talking about how it started. However, then I realised there's another technique in a narrative which, I mean, you're all familiar with, it's used often, which is just like where I am now and then go backwards to the beginning with how I got here. So I've been deliberating about this for weeks and weeks, and I finally decided on where I'm going to start with today. Now today I'm going to start with the connection between art and cross-stitch, and a particular journey that I went on in the last couple of years, which has been fantastic. And it starts, no, see, there are so many places it starts, but one starting point is with a little piece I like to call Inspirational Goose. And I'm going to show you Inspirational Goose. It is a watercolour painting by the artist Nadine Dudek. And here is Inspirational Goose. I cannot tell you how much inspiration this goose has given me. I love him. See? He just, look at that. Look at him. Love him. Now there's a story behind Inspirational Goose. I should have an easel here. That would be handy if I could just sit that there. See, I'm going to hold it and try not to waver it and see all the reflections in the glass. Now the story behind Inspirational Goose is, I grew up, oh God, I am going to go right back to the beginning, I can tell it, I can't help it. I grew up in Canberra, ACT, the capital of Australia, and I grew up with, well, lots of fabulous friends, but one family were the Dudeks, and in my year is my good, dear, wonderful, bestest friend, Simone Dudek, and her little sister, Nadine Dudek, who's a few years younger. So we knew each other all through school, and as we grew up and went off and did different things, the thing about these sisters you see, and their mother and their father actually, is they were very talented creatively. They could pretty much turn their hand into any sort of art form, any creativity. They were very good at it. And so it was going to be really interesting to see what these girls chose to do after we finished school. And they both did study, and Simone then went into finance and Nadine went into science. I was really jealous because they were both so artistic and creative. I was like, what? Surely you're going to become fine artists. Simone, I thought, should have been a writer. Simone, you know this about me, that's what I think. But anyway. So these two friends. Nadine went on to have an excellent career in research science. In fact, I ended up marrying a research scientist. My husband is an immunologist, and he ended up working, well, collaborating or knowing Nadine in science. Now, where this is getting to is the exciting part. When was it? Early 2000s? Can't quite remember. Nadine and her scientist husband were living, oh, I'm telling her story. I hope she doesn't mind. Nadine, thank you. I'm telling her story. It's a good one. She decided she wanted to, she was already a watercolour artist, as you know, her own interest and pastime, and she decided to make it a profession. Now this was very exciting to me because I was like, yes, the creatives are coming back. And also I knew their art. Their mother, Ros Dudek, beautiful watercolour artist as well. So I knew what was possible. one of the first paintings that Nadine put up for sale that I saw was my goose, was that goose. And I just emailed her straight away and said, I just saw that goose, you posted it somewhere, please, can I buy it? She said, of course, sent it to me from England to Australia at that time. You should all go to Nadine Dudek artist website and just look at her art. It is a lot of birds, a lot of nature, actually, but the birds are beautiful, and you'll see that in a minute. Her watercolour style, her aesthetic is very minimalist, and it is just so beautiful, and it speaks to my heart. And one day I was sitting looking at Inspiration Goose. This was back in about 2021. It's been sitting on my wall for a long time. And I don't know why, but I just looked at it and thought, what would that look like in cross stitch? And that thought didn't leave me alone. So I just thought, well, how do people even make paintings into cross stitch? I didn't know. I mean, I knew there was software that can do it. I knew there was, but I kind of wanted to get a little bit old school with it. And I thought, well, how did people do it centuries ago? People have been cross stitching for a long time. How did they do it? How did they see something and decide to make an image out, a cross stitch out of it? So with that in mind, I didn't use any software, I didn't use anything. I just decided to start playing with how do you do this? And I got out my test bit of fabric and I started to just play with just eyeballing the picture, picking colours and just trying to cross stitch goose. Very interesting thing to do. Now, ignore a lot of the other things around this test piece of fabric, but I'm going to show you my first couple of attempts at test goose. Here they are. Now look, actually, now that I look at them, like, not terrible, kind of terrible, but not terrible. But, oh, look at those little wrens. I tell you to ignore them and then I look at them. Look at the little tiny little wren. Anyway, no. Gooses, Inspiration Gooses. So in doing those, I wanted to get better at it. I thought, I want to really nail this. I want this to be a really good goose. But realizing, of course, I'm working off Nadine Dudek's art. And at this stage, I'm just doing it privately for myself. But I thought, oh, what would she think of this? Would she look at that and go, cringe, please don't do that to my birds? Would she look at it and go, cool? So I sent her a picture of it and said, hey, Nadine, what do you think about this? I'm just playing with this at the moment. Does it make you cringe or not? Anyway, she said, fun, looks great, wow. And I said, you know, these aren't the finished ones and I don't even know what I'm doing them for. But, you know, do you mind if I do this with your art if I play? And she's like, no, not at all. Like, sounds really great, you know, explore. Thank you, Nadine. And then I was inspired by lots of other of her works as well and decided that some of those were probably actually better suited to creating cross stitches around them. And at this point I decided there is software that does this. You know, I'm going to invest. Now, I don't know how to use software to chart cross stitches. So that was quite the learning curve. I got Mac Stitch because I'm a Mac user. And I began learning how to do this. It really is a learning curve. I also have so much respect now for anyone who charts cross-stitching and does a good job, because it is not easy. It is hard. People talk about it, you just put it in a software and it does it. I wish. It doesn't. There's a lot of work to do. Anyway, I got on that journey of learning how to do that. And together, Nadine and I decided to create one with the idea of selling the pattern, having it available for purchase. And the one we decided to start with, she obviously, her signature is Australian birds. Now, which one did we decide to start with, Nadine? Because there's a few in the series now. I think I started with Kookaburra. Let's go with him. So this was the first one that we turned into a pattern. We didn't end up turning my Inspiration Goose into a pattern because he's mine. But we went with a few other ones. This is not tight anymore. It's seen a few moves. Anyway, this was the beginning of charting it, and it was really great working with Nadine because it took a lot of to and froing, a lot of saying, have a look at this version, have a look at this version. And by that I'm showing her mock-ups from charts. Now, Nadine has a really strong artist's eye that can pick out details that it's like, that's not quite blending properly, that angle of that isn't quite right, which is really good. I was so grateful for, because I learnt in this how bamboozling it can get, just working in little pixels and then trying to draw your eye out and look at the whole thing and go, is that looking like what it's supposed to look like? You lose it after a while, so that other set of eyes is really important. Anyway, I love him. I love him. So that was the first one, and we considered that a success and said, let's do more. And the next one, I love this one. Now, there. I think there are too many angles to work with here. Anyway, here's Cockatoo. One of the reasons I love turning watercolour art into cross stitch is because of the gentle, the blur of watercolour, and then the way you can achieve that with lots of confetti, really. Actually, there's not a lot of confetti in here, but there could have been when I was designing it. If I made it 100 colours, it would have been a lot of confetti. As I was designing it, I realised there's such a balance too between how many colours you use. Yeah, anything would look great with lots of confetti making perfect grades of colour, but you know, we want to enjoy our stitching, not just be changing colour every 2 stitches. But I really like how watercolour art translates to cross stitch, given all of its smushy colour. This is very subtle, I think. Like cockatoos, I love, you know, a white cockatoo is a white cockatoo, but is it? No, it's not. It's purples and peaches and lavenders and beiges, browns. Oh, I love it. Anyway. Oh, and I loved him so much, I did a bit more experimenting with him. And I like him on black too. I think he pops. So, that's my cockatoo friend. We love him. And then next, now this one was a bit more challenging for me because it has a bit more solid colour. Those two, you know, Kookaburras and Cockatoos, you know, have a lot of sort of neutral colouring. Not so the Kingfisher. No. Look at that long beak and that flat head. Do you know how hard it was getting his head flat? Because I kept wanting to round it. Nadine would have to say to me, take some more stitches off the top of his head. Kingfishers have flat heads. I'd be like, oh. I think I just rounded it because I think things shouldn't have flat heads. They should, apparently, when they really do. But anyway, you'll sort of see that the grading that had to happen through this. There is some blended colours there, and actually I found that was very helpful to get. Pussycats are starting to get restless because they want me to attend to them. Open doors, close doors, open doors again, close doors. I will do that in a minute. Oh, and you'll also notice he doesn't have feet, and none of them do. And that is another hilarious detail of Nadine Dudek watercolour art, is she just admits it. Hate doing feet, don't do them. Which I just think, yeah, you're the creator, do what you want. Anyway, so this became the first series that I did for Nadine Dudek art in cross stitch, and we released these patterns and they are for sale on her website nadinedudek.com, I think. and I love them. And that was, you know, oh God, that was a fun project. After those 3 birds, it wasn't going to stop there. I was like, let me do more. Can I do more? And she does magnificent owls and owls in flight. And I was very excited to do an owl in flight. And so we did. I actually don't have that here because I gave that to my niece. She loved it when she saw it. And I said, well, it's yours then. But I'm going to put a picture up of it. And this was such an interesting experience doing this one. All of those I test stitched before we put out the patterns, and I love to test stitch. I can't just put out a pattern without test stitching, and I learn through the test stitching. But with this big owl in flight, I thought, oh no, look, I won't test stitch the whole thing before we put it out. But there are parts of it I want to test stitch. So I just started actually on some cheaper linen that I had, which was, God, that was a mistake. Don't use the cheap linen, I would like to say, mostly because it is not square, I discovered on completing the entire owl, because no, I was not going to end up doing just a test patch. I did the whole owl, which I'm glad for, but it also showed me that it was a little bit contracted because the linen wasn't square. And I hadn't thought of that when I started on that linen. Anyway, it is by no means a problem. It's still a beautiful owl in flight. It was really, again, I always thought that what I would love to stitch the most is colours, bright colours. You know, my God, the colours that you can do in cross stitch. So I was really surprised when I was drawn to doing this owl of very muted browns and greys. It doesn't sound very appealing, but it was. I really enjoyed doing it, and I really enjoyed working in those subtle colour changes throughout the owl. And I love how real it is. That is an owl in flight, all right. Anyway, that's my owl. After that, we had to do some magpies. You can't be doing Australian birds and not do magpies. And there was one particular painting that Nadine did. It spoke to my heart because I saw it like a heart. So I said, can I do that one too? And she said, yep. And so we have our magpies. And I love them. See the bottom of where they join? It's like the bottom of a heart, and then it goes up, and I find the heart shape in it anyway. I hope you can too. But these are the magpies, which is also the name of, the emblem of the Collingwood football team here. And Nadine said people do buy it to, sow the birds of their football club, which I quite like. And so they're the magpies. And again, now working in, black and white. Fascinating. It was fascinating to do, actually. I think this has about 11 colours. I'm not very good at talking about my actual products that I sell, am I? Because I haven't said anything about, I think they're all on either 28 or 32 count linen. That's what I've done them on. Oh yeah, I should have the patterns to show you. I'll put the patterns up to show you. Actually, this one's really lovely too, because in the middle here, I don't know if it's going to show up, but all through here, it's actually really dark blue. And I kind of love that. I love how black isn't black. Or maybe if I put it this, maybe you can't see it. Anyway, black doesn't have to be black. Black can be black and dark blue. Like white isn't necessarily white. This has lavenders through the white as well. And then, again, is something I actually don't have here in person to show you because it was a gift. But we did an alphabet series, the Blue Wren alphabet. And that's where these blue wrens came in my little test stitching. I was test stitching little wren. Look at this little guy. This is a little 1/1 on 28 count. That's the first time I ever did 1/1. Just doing a little. I always do 2/2. I'll be changing that. I'll be exploring that. But anyway, so these little wrens got tested, and we did an alphabet series. And this is the V that I ended up stitching, and I chose V for my big sister Vicky, and I gifted it to her. I haven't test stitched every letter. I kind of really want to though, but there are so many beautiful things to be stitching that I haven't tested all of them though. But I am going to sort of put through all the letters on screen just so you can see the different variations. It was lovely playing with the placement of the leaves and the wren and the letters. That was really, really enjoyable, and we're both really proud of those. Again, Nadine, thank you so much for, you know, going with me on this journey, letting me represent your art in cross stitch. Your art is just to die for. I can't say that enough. You know how much I love it, and so it's been a real privilege to be able to design these, given that I wasn't even a cross stitch designer. But then, what are any of us? We're all what we decide to do in the moment, right? Sure. Okay, so that has been the Nadine Dudek Art in Cross Stitch by Margaret McCarahan, or Maggie Lou Stitches, chapter of this Flosstube video and my cross stitching biography, the journey. Oh my goodness. Okay, so where to go from here is all of those projects were done between 2022 and 2024. So that's the last couple of years. But I've also been stitching other things throughout that time, which I will be showing in other videos. I'm going to wrap this up now, but I think it's only right that we talk about right now what I'm stitching right now, because I do have my project that is progressing. And I want to talk about this because I love it. Do you know, actually, one of the other things that I love about Flosstube is seeing the looks on people's faces when they present the works that they love. When they hold something up and go, look at this, which is either the pattern mock-up that they've purchased or their own stitching of it. You know, we love what we love, and it's so beautiful to see when that's expressed. Look, there are so many Flosstubers that throughout my time Flosstubing I will be mentioning. There are too many to mention, as you know, but there are a few I'm going to be talking about. Today I want to talk about one of the most beautiful times I saw that. There's a Flosstuber called Ebony, In Stitches with Ebony. And oh my goodness, you should go and have a look at her first, second, third of videos, particularly the lion. She does a full coverage lion that is jaw-dropping. But Ebony is a full coverage cross stitcher, and boy is she a multi-cross stitcher. She has many whips, large, beautiful whips, and she gets them out and shows them. You should see her face when she starts going, I love this. That's her Northern English accent that I shouldn't even do. But honestly, that is one of the things that I love, is seeing us all talk about this craft that we love. You can see it. You can see it in our faces. But anyway, go and see Ebony's lion and all of her work. My goodness, she is an enabler. Because you just see her projects go, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do that. Anyway, so that's why I wanted to talk about what I am stitching at the moment, because my goodness, I love it so much, and yet again tells me how much I love watercolour art and it being turned into cross stitch. This one is actually a Luca-S kit, and it is Raspberries with butterflies, and I love it. This still life, I just think it is so delicate and beautiful. And so that's my current stitching project, and the artist is Elena Bazanova, and I went and looked up her and all of her watercolour art. Absolutely beautiful. So here's a progress shot. I think I've been doing this for about 3 or 4 weeks, and this is my progress. I love it so much. It is a pity that it is all crushed up and has hoop marks, but it'll be going I'm right back in the hoop straight after this video and I'll be stitching more on it. Look at those delicate berries. Oh my goodness, I love this. It's going to be that wide. And I love it. So this is my current obsession. This is why other things are not getting done at the moment. But it's my life. I'll sew as much as I want, right? Okay, that's it for today. I'm sure there's a lot that I've wanted to say that I've missed, but it doesn't matter. I will, this will be a long-term thing where I get to cover everything over many different sessions. So look, come back. I have so much more to say. Oh my goodness, I have so much more to say and to show. I love this adult show and tell, It's not just for kindergartners. We've figured out a way to do it as adults here on Flosstube, and I really appreciate that. I have so much more to talk about, so much more to show. So I hope you'll come back. Until then, do lots of stitching. I'm going to. And look, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.